All right, well, this is our last week of the September playlist because it's about to be October, which is insane. Um, Today we're going to use, you will probably be benefited by having something about this shape or size, not this shape, this size. Uh, if you have yoga blocks, then that would work. Um, she's wiped out. But if you don't have yoga blocks, a growler, or I sometimes use like a protein powder bottle, that would be acceptable too. It'll just be helpful in some of our poses in a while. I don't have much to chat about today. And then of course I'll just keep chatting. We're gonna do a lot of twists. We haven't done a lot of twists or a twist focused practice in a while. I think they're very useful as physically they're useful in detoxing. So whenever we have like a change of seasons or a change of focus, getting rid of what was before helps us in moving into something new. I was just having a couple of drinks with a friend last night, and we were talking about the idea of attachment versus having an experience and identifying with an experience, allowing that to serve us. And that comes into, if you think of like the way that you hold something, if you take something and hold it in and like experience it, sit with it, allow it to be there, cradle it, support it, and then also be willing to let it go when that time comes, that's perhaps the best way to get into our experiences. Like if I grab Jezebel and I like squeeze her until it hurts and I refuse to let her go, she's going to be very mad about it. I'm probably going to get scratched up. Nobody's going to be happy. But if she wants to be held, and I take her to me, and I use my arms, my strength, my attention to give her the attention that she deserves, that she is seeking, then when she's ready, she can go off and be on her own again, and we can move on from that. We can let that experience pass and move on to what's next. We'll be doing some twisting. We'll be holding and staying in things and kind of experiencing them, checking them out, moving on from there, much like we can hopefully do with all of the things that come at us in this world, whether we're saying goodbye to summer or we're looking forward to summer, enjoying a circumstance, not enjoying a circumstance. Take it in, sit with it, and when you're ready to walk on, be ready to move with it. Yeah. Bring your hands, actually let's do some face brushing since we were talking about purging. We'll brush some things away. So take your index finger and your thumb together, and then the squishy spot at the bottom of your thumb, you'll bring that into the center of your forehead and brush outwards towards your temples a few times. And then brushing from the sides of your nose out to your temples, along your cheekbones. I've missed this. From your temple down to your chin, along your jawline. And from the sides of your nose down to your chin, along your laugh lines. And then bring your fingertips in right underneath and behind your ears, finding the soft spot and then the bony spot that's up above the soft spot and lifting up on your spine from that point. Take an inhale, feel your spine growing taller. As you exhale, relax your shoulders. And then do that one more time. Feel yourself getting longer, and then whatever got tense, let it go. And let your hands go down into your lap. Take a moment to check in with your body, to check in with your breath. As you start to cultivate a steady, even flow of breath, perhaps in and out through your nose. You get a little bit of fuzz pedal action in the back of your throat, creating a little bit of sound to that breath. You can make whatever sound you like, a growl, a scream, or an om. We'll do that 3 times. First, take a big breath in through your nose, and this time exhale through your mouth. And again like that, big breath in. For 3 ohms. On your next breath in, take your arms and lift them up, feeling that space behind your ears, lifting up, getting taller through your spine. Whenever you get to your next exhale, go ahead and twist over towards your right. So take your left hand down to your knee, your right hand's in close. So don't lean back, try to stay up as much as you can. And then take an inhale to feel that lift behind your ears. And then as you exhale, feel your belly softening inwards, your lower ribs drop down. One more time, big breath in, get taller. Exhale, soften in your middle, your belly. Come back to the center, take a big breath in, lift those arms up. And as you exhale, twist over towards your left side. Try to let your collarbones be open and your lower ribs be just a little bit more closed. Big breath in, big breath out. Inhale, lift up to the center. Exhale, twist over towards your right. Stay there, breathe in, and stay there, breathe out. And on your breath in, lift the arms back up. Exhale, twisting over towards your left. Stay there, breathe in. Stay there, breathe out. Inhale, back to the center, lift the arms up. And then one more time, twist over towards your right. Lift behind the ears as you breathe in, soften your belly in as you breathe out. And when you get to your inhale, come back to the center, lift up. And twist over to the left as you breathe out. Inhale up behind the ears, exhale down and soft in the ribs and the belly. Come back up, come back to the center. And then you're gonna take the hands down in front of you in a place that's comfortable. Relax your lower back. Think soft, easy thoughts there. And then when it becomes interesting to you, start to walk your hands a little bit further forward. And if your hips start to lift up off of the ground, just go ahead and walk yourself back. And instead of walking your hands forward, maybe you just soften your heart down a little bit. Try to find some softness behind your ears, relaxing the tension that we often hold in the back of the head. One more breath in. One more breath out. And then start to walk the hands back in. You're gonna switch the cross of your legs. If you didn't have your legs crossed, if you were just seated or had your legs in front of you, just hang out exactly as you were before. That's all good. We're just gonna take a couple more twists. We'll go a little bit faster though. Inhale, lift the hands up. And exhale, twist over towards the right. And then your inhale is going to take you straight up to the center. Come back to the middle, lift the arms. Exhale, twisting over towards the left. Even though the movement's a little bit faster, try to keep your breath slow and steady so you allow time for the movement. You allow time to experience the shape, even though you don't spend a lot of time there. Still thinking of the lifting behind your ears, and the softness in your low ribs and in your belly. Take one more round each side. See if you can twist a little bit more. Like maybe you could take a little bit more time on your exhale, get a little bit more wound. And that's fine if you were already as wound as you could be. It's just a question we ask ourselves. And then take those arms back up. And then you're gonna take the hands down, but this time walk your hands over a little bit more towards the right rather than trying to go down, and then relax your left hip down. You might go like all the way over this thigh if you're feeling very twisty, if you have the room, but if you don't go all the way over to the side, if it feels better in your back to be here, just be here. Take another breath in and another breath out. Relax that left hip. And then walk your hands over towards the left side. And you'll notice I do lift up that leg. There is a tilting of my body over this way. And then I want to just relax it down. Have that response. I can feel it, acknowledge it, and let it go. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then start to walk your hands back in, coming back to the center. We're gonna open the legs out. I like to leave the toes up, leaving the legs kind of active. If you're finding it difficult to sit up, I'm sitting up on a pillow. You might grab one as well, or a small cushion. Also, putting a little bend into the knees can sometimes give a little bit more release in the pelvis to get the spine straight up. You're gonna take the right hand out over your right ankle, your shin somewhere, and then reach your left arm over. And we're gonna take this 2 ways. We're gonna start with a really soft belly. So I'm kind of shadowing my face here. And a little bit more stretch across the upper back. Big exhale. And then start to spiral upwards. So you roll your collarbone open. Maybe you look up towards that hand. One more exhale. And then taking it up and reaching your left hand over towards the left side. Anywhere on that leg is good. Take the arm up and over, more of your nose space, and then let your front ribs soften inwards. It's a little bit more of the back stretch. Try to relax the space between your arm bone and your neck bones. Inhale. Exhale. And then start to open up that front space you were just softening by rolling that arm back, and start with the shoulder. So roll the collarbone open to the shoulder. Last exhale in this shape. Come on up. We're going to start to come down onto our backs. Make sure you have whatever object you have around. If you do have a growler and it's full, just pretend you're holding something. It doesn't need to be that heavy, but if you've got an empty one or you've got something that's fairly lightweight, then excellent, we will do that. I want you to pretend if you are holding a full growler, unless you want to do some really intense core work, which I'm not sure I always advise. I'm going to take mine with a rounded edge, so it's a little bit shorter, and bring it up against my knees. And I'm going to push my knees into the growler, and my hands into the growler, and my hips to the floor, and my shoulders to the floor, and then I'm going to try to get back to my breath, which all of a sudden has gotten a little bit difficult. So I'm not grasping anything here, but I am applying pressure and connection. One more breath in. One more breath out, and then relax. We're gonna kick that up a little bit more. You're gonna pretend, so you might just have your hands up like this, pretending there's something in between your hands and your knees, or you'll have your thing, whatever your thing is. You're gonna push it towards the legs. You're gonna take one leg out, and then one leg in. Exhale, move one leg out. Inhale, move it in. Exhale, move the leg out. Inhale, move it in. Exhale, move it out. It doesn't have to go far. Maybe it just goes forward a few inches. Especially if you've got any sort of lower back stuff, you're feeling a little bit tender today. Last time you take your, whatever leg you started with, do the other one so you're even. Take one forward and then relax. You won't be lopsided or anything if I gave you poor instructions. This time we're going to use hands. So you're going to reach that arm back. I don't have a lot of space. I'm going to move. So bring your legs up. You're going to bring both legs. Keep them in, pressing with your hand. Reach one arm back. Exhale, bring it back. Inhale, reach the arm back. Exhale, bring the hand back. Inhale, reach the arm back. Exhale, take it up. It doesn't matter how far your arm goes back. Let's do 3 on each arm. more time. And then take your object, whatever it is, carefully set it off to the side. You're going to bring the soles of your feet together, let the knees open up, and if this feels tender on your inner thighs, I want you to take your hands and just hold your thighs with your fingertips. If that's still too tender, then just kind of rest one thigh over to the side for a couple of breaths and switch sides. It can be a little bit more relaxed if your leg does have somewhere to go. If you feel okay resting with fingertips on your thighs or fingertips down on the ground, we'll be here for about 3 more breaths. So whatever you're doing, if you need to go side to side and even that out, you've got that amount of time. Then bring your legs back in together. I'm going to take your right leg up in the air, just make some circles around with your ankle and your toes. Circle the other way. Then flex your foot, toes up towards the shin. Put your right ankle on your left knee, take your right arm in between the legs and hold on to your left thigh. And if that was too much, if it's hard to hold on to your leg like that, you can put something behind your head, or you can even put your left foot up on your thing, and then you'll get a little bit of lift. It's hard if it's rolling, but that's an option. If that's something that you're seeking is a little bit less intense than trying to use your hands to hold that leg. Stay here 3 more breaths. And then you're going to let go of your hands. And if you have something underneath your foot, you're just going to gently slide it off to the side. Hopefully it doesn't go too far away. Keep the same shape in your legs. And you're going to tilt that shape over towards the left. So you have a big stretch on the outside of your right hip. I feel like you can take your right hand to that hip to open up that space. Maybe open up your right arm. And keep feeling your belly softening in to allow your right collarbone to open. Settle into that twist. One more breath in. One more breath out. And you're going to start to unwind that right leg, taking both legs back to the center. If your hips did anything a little off, you'll bring them back into that neutral middle space and take your left leg up in the air so that you can move. Ugh. That was some snap, crackle, and pop happening in my leg. I'm not sure if the mic picked that up, but apparently I need some work in that foot. We're getting into boot season, friends. It's time to keep working on those feet. Draw the toes up towards the shins, or you're getting into flip-flop season. I don't know, whatever anybody's got going on. So we'll bring the left ankle onto the right knee, and then you can put something underneath your foot. You can put something underneath your head. Maybe you grab onto your thigh. Relax your hips down. Try to soften your collarbones. It's a very natural response. They're going to want to lift up and try to take over those fronts and shoulders. Let them relax as much as they're able to. They tuned in, they paid attention, you said no thank you, and now we can all move on. One more breath. Release your hands. Bring the right foot back down. If you had something underneath the foot, you'll remove that. And then tilt the whole shape over towards the right. So the sole of the foot comes down and the knee faces up. And you can even use your left hand or right hand to feel some softness, maybe kind of Massage the outside of that hip, opening the left arm, softening the left collarbone and the belly. It's fine if your knee doesn't face straight up. Sometimes the knee does need to fall in a little bit. Make adjustments for your body. Always modify to suit what's going to really speak to you. This is about you having an experience in your skin, in your bones, in your breath, in your consciousness. The poses are just a guide. You can say to hell with this lady at any point and do what makes sense to you. Big breath in. Big breath out. And start to unwind your legs when you come back to the center. Reach your arms up, catch your elbows. Try to pull your elbows away from your head. Take a big breath in, feel your armpits lift up. Exhale, relax. Inhale. Reach those elbows away. Feel your armpits rolling upwards. Exhale, let it go. One more time. Inhale. Pull those elbows away. Stretch the side body. And relax. Bring your feet a little bit wider. Flex your feet again. Toes up towards your shins and let both knees go over towards the right side. And then you're going to pull those elbows up, feeling your armpits, the outer armpits rolling up. Just take one more breath in. Stay there for a nice easy breath out. And bring the legs back up and take them over towards the other side. Try to keep your toes flexed up towards your shins. Strong ankles help create stronger knees. Reach the elbows away, wrap the armpits up. Soften with your exhale. One more time, big breath in, reach the elbows. Stay there as you exhale. And then come on up to the center. You're going to roll yourself all the way over and press up and back into child's pose. Roll over, knees a little bit wider than the hips. Sit the hips back, reach the arms forward, rest your forehead down. If it's not comfortable to reach the arms out like that, you might bring them in and make a pillow for your head. You could always have your hips much higher than your heels. They don't have to touch. Find a resting pose that says to you, ease, so softness and surrender. Just give in for about another 2 breaths. When you're ready, start to lift yourself up onto your hands and knees. If your knees are wider than your hips, bring them in about hip width apart. We'll do a little flow. Try to keep it as slow as you can. As you inhale, reach your right arm up, and as you exhale, you're gonna hover, reaching underneath your left armpit. And then inhale, reach it up. The slower you go, the deeper the work becomes. Exhale, reach underneath. Do 2 more. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, reach under. Inhale up. Exhale under. We're going to reach up one more time and then go under one more time. This time, rest on the outside of your shoulder. Go ahead and come down into softness. What you might do is take your left hand onto your right hand and gently press the left hand down to get a little bit more stretch behind your right shoulder. If this feels uncomfortable in your neck, I want you to put your left hand back where it was or wherever it is supported to, so you don't feel like there's any danger or pain or discomfort around your head and neck. You want to feel supported here, and then try to relax your thigh bones inside of your pelvis. One more breath in. One more breath out. And then your left hand's going to come back underneath the left shoulder. You're going to press yourself back up. Right hand underneath the right shoulder. And on your next breath in, take that left arm up and open. Take it nice and slow as you exhale. Reach underneath and hover. Inhale, open it up. Exhale, reach under and hover. Do that 2 more times on your own breath. Take it up. 1 more time, reach underneath. You're gonna rest this time on the outside of your shoulder. And what often happens is the hips might reach over or get a little tight. So you're just gonna think softness in the hips. And it seems like, for the most part, the hips will even out. They'll come into a slightly more relaxed space. And they don't have to be perfectly even. Just somewhere where there's not any undue tension or imbalance. Maybe your right hand is pressing down on your left hand if that's interesting or valuable to you. One more breath in. Excuse me, breathe out. And your right hand comes back under your shoulder. Your left hand comes underneath your shoulder. And we're gonna bring the right foot, grab your object, whatever it is. You're gonna bring that underneath your right or left hand. Your right foot's gonna come up by your right hand, and then your right hand's gonna come up onto your right thigh. So try not to let your hips go over to the right. You really wanna pull your right hip back towards the left foot. You can push down in the left or the right hand to roll your collarbone open, and you start to come into a little twist. I know a lot of us could have the hand on the ground here, but I want it to be a little bit more lifted so you really have the room to get into this twist. So you're gonna really roll your left ribs over towards the right thigh. So you might get a little bit more twisty than you could have, a little bit more low. And then open your right collarbone up towards your right fingertips. Stay there as you breathe in. Stay there as you breathe out. And then you're gonna unwind this twist. All right, it's gonna get a little bit spicier here. Come up so that your back knee is up off of the ground. Unless you would decide that you don't wanna do that, you just wanna do it with the back knee down, you can stay and do that the same way again. Or you push into the front foot, lift the back knee. If you've got knee stuff going on, take your time, do whatever you're gonna do. Find yourself up on the back toes. And you don't have to lift your right hand in the air. You might just roll your left ribs towards the right thigh and pull the right hip back. You gotta push down into that front foot so you feel all of the under the thigh muscles working for you. And if and only if you feel very steady and you're very solid and wanting to go further, you might open your right shoulder and your right hand up, push into both feet, soften your belly, breathe, breathe, breathe. And then take your right hand down. Take your left knee down, take your hands down, and your right foot back. Cool. Possibly one of the spiciest things that we will do today is going to shift your hips around a little bit. Okay, one more side. You're going to bring that object, maybe it's a growler, over towards your right hand. Your left foot comes up, left hand comes up to the left thigh. So I can like twist up, or I can really rotate my ribs towards my thigh there. You see how it's a little bit different, especially if I don't let that hip go out. I'm really gonna pull the thigh back and then the ribs go in. And I wanna open this collarbone. And then maybe I open this collarbone right up to my fingertips. Practice now pushing into that front foot. You feel how it's a little bit stronger? Stay there as you exhale. And take your hand down. We're gonna come up off of that back knee. Do whatever you need to do. It doesn't need to be graceful or look like yoga, okay? And then you're gonna open both of your collarbones, right ribs towards left thigh, left hip pulls back, push into that front foot. Push into both feet, but definitely that front foot. Maybe you keep your hand here. Maybe you open the shoulder up towards the fingertips. Ears away from the back heel. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then take the hands down, take the knee down, set your growler or growler substitute off to the side, and onto your hands and knees. We'll take a little side-to-side cat and cow. So look over towards the right side of your bum and over towards the left side of your bum. Breathe nice and slow. Breathe with it. Just do one more time each side. One downward dog. Spread your fingers out. Push into your hands from the outsides of your shoulders. You should feel your heart puffing up towards the ceiling. Keep that action as you bend, lift your knees up off of the ground, curling into your toes. You can have bent knees, but have strong upper back, upper shoulder space. Try to relax your heels. Even if your knees are bent and your heels are not going to come anywhere near the floor, just relax those heels. Inhale, feel the tailbone reach up. Exhale, big sigh. And then bring your feet to your hands and your hands to your feet. You can test that your feet are maybe about a fist apart. Could be a little less, could be a little more. You can just kind of feel it out. You're going to bend into your knees. Take your hands to your thighs. Let's stick your butt back as much as you can. And stick your heart forward as much as you can. Notice how my toes are coming off a little bit. It's because I really have the weight into my heels. Take an inhale. Soften something as you exhale. Straighten the legs. Stand all the way up. Lift the arms up when you get there. Big breath in. And exhale, hands at your heart. We're going to sit back into that chair pose again. You can use your hands to support you if that was something that helped you feel a little more stable. It'll be a little bit more into the core if you reach your arms up instead. If that was too much, bring your hands to your heart or hands to your thighs. There's no sense in overdoing it. You stay present with what is. Can you wrap your arms forward? Sit your hips back. I don't know anybody who really wants to be attached to a really long chair pose. Take one more exhale. Stand up, straighten the legs, reach up, breathe in. And exhale, hands to your heart. So I do have the legs a little bit apart here. If you need to have your legs together to make sure your knees don't go wonky, if that feels better to you, you can do that. If you can, keep your feet a little bit apart. I'm just gonna kind of play a little bit with where the balance is in the feet as we twist our chair. So sit backwards, same as you did before. I'm pushing my hips back. My toes are kind of not sort of as in contact with the mat as they might be usually. Keep your, I'll mirror you, keep your right hand at your right hip. Take your left hand down to your left thigh, to your right thigh, and then pull both hips back and stand strong on your feet. So your hips are really going back. Now you want to look down and make sure that your left knee doesn't start to sneak forward as you roll your left ribs over towards the right side. If you like, you might open this arm. Notice how mine doesn't go straight back behind me because my rib cage doesn't go all the way over like that. Is your knee going forward? Try pushing into both feet instead. Stay there as you breathe out. Come back to the center. Straighten the legs. Reach it all the way up. Take an inhale. And then exhale, bringing the hands back to your heart. Let's go for the other side. Sit it back. Now, it's easier to keep the knees in line if they're touching. This is hard. Making sure you're being very present, having the knees a little bit apart. So leave your left hand at your hip, take your right hand to your right thigh, keep pulling both hips back, equal pressure on the feet. And as you soften your belly, you're gonna kind of pull yourself and roll your left or right ribs over towards the left. Open that left collarbone. Maybe you open your hand. Try not to let that right knee creep forward. You gotta keep equal pressure in the feet, reaching back in the hips. Big breath in, big breath out. And come back to the center. Straighten the legs, reach the arms up, big breath in. Exhale, hands down to your heart. Widen your legs out a whole bunch. So about as wide as your hands would be apart. And take the arms up, feel this length in your spine. Feel free to bend into your knees as you fold forward. Take the hands down, drop your head down. Try to find something to soften while you're there. Roll that tailbone up. One more exhale. put a little bend in your knees, bring your hands to your hips. Start to take yourself all the way up. We're gonna shift into a high lunge over to the right side. So I am gonna, what am I gonna, I'll do this. So take your right foot forward and your left foot back. I'm on the back heel. So like when we came up from the ground before, but now you don't have to do weird knee gymnastics. Just make sure that your front knee is facing forward. Bring your right hand to your right hip. Feel that hip pulling towards that back foot. And then you're gonna start with your left hand on the outside of your right knee. Try not to let that knee fall in. You want to keep it forward and strong. What you might do is slide down till you have your elbow down and leave your palm open. What you might do is, if you feel good about keeping this hip towards that back foot, is put both palms together. Keep lifting your inner thighs. And from that place, maybe you can roll your left ribs closer towards your right thigh. Any of the places we were previously at is a perfectly good place for you to stop. If that's a better place for your knees, your back, your breath, your balance, your give a damn today, whatever it is, that's okay. Breathe in. Stay there, breathe out. And then look down at your front foot. We're gonna come up into a twisting chair. You could bring your hands back here. It's gonna be a lot easier. Maybe you keep your elbow up. You could take 10 steps or 1. And then stand up. Okay. Other side. I'll face away from you this time, but you can see a slightly different angle. So we've got both hips forward. What you want to do is, if you lift these inner thighs, it's going to keep you more contained in the midsection. Sometimes balance is easier there. And then you're going to keep your left hand at your left hip, pulling that hip to the back foot. Take your right hand down to your left thigh. Lifting those inner thighs, and then soften your belly. Roll your right ribs over towards the left. You might stay here. You might bring the elbow down, palm up onto your thigh. Make sure you're still pulling that left hip back towards your right foot. 2 strong legs. Maybe the hands come together. And then instead of letting your left shoulder come forward, open that left shoulder up. Open the left ribs up, maybe look up to the left. We're gonna come back to that twisting chair. You can bring your hand back to your hip and your thigh instead of having your palms together. This one is hard. If you miss, it's okay. Look down towards your front foot, step the right foot up. It might be 10 steps or 1. And then come on out of it, straighten the legs. Take those arms up, big breath in. And hands down to your heart. Then you're gonna cross your right foot back behind your left foot. Reach the arms up, catch hold of your right wrist. We're gonna take that soft forward side bend. So soften the front body, bump the hips over towards the right, push into that back foot. Relax that shoulder blade forward. Big exhale. Take it back up. Switch to the other side. Just switch the cross of your legs. Hold on to your left wrist instead. Feel that front body softening, resting the shoulder blade forward, bumping the hips to the left, and sending those arms over towards the right. Big breath in. Big breath out. Come on up. Release the arms, uncross your legs. And then bring the big toe edges together real close. Feel the inner thighs lifting up here. You might even have some squeeze right behind the bum, so there's a little bit more forward lifting energy. Take the arms up, make Charlie's Angels fingers, with like, you know, steeple gun, shooter, bubble gun sort of thing. Steeple fingers, same. And then you're gonna lift up, feel the inner thighs lift up, squeeze your inner thighs and your glutes up and together, lift up through the center of the chest. Side bend over towards the left side. Soften the inner shoulders and roll your heart up a little bit more. Stay there, breathe out. Inhale to the center, up and over towards that right side. Soften the inner shoulders, keep squeezing that midline. Roll the heart up, breathe in, stay there, breathe out. And then come up, relax your arms down. Roll the shoulders around a little bit. if there's been any shortness or tightness in the breath. Sometimes heart opening, back bendy kind of stuff can be a little bit intense. Just give yourself space to come back to center. And then we'll take a big hamstring stretch. So we're going to take pyramid pose. Find warrior one legs. So you have about that much distance. So you have your front leg bent and you're able to have the back toes up and you don't have, you're not on a tightrope. You've got some space right to left between your legs, then straighten the front leg. And you can have your hands at your hips or interlace your hands back behind you. I haven't done this one in a while. I'll change it up. Roll your right hip back and then send your heart forward over your right toes. Push into the big toe. Don't worry about how far forward you get. Try to keep the legs straight and really focus on rolling that right hip back. So you're long on the right side of your waist, not short and squishy. Long. Big breath in. Big breath out. Big breath in. Big breath out. Draw the belly in, lift up. See if you can stand up and take your left leg up in front of you. So just boop, and then set it down. And then take the right foot back. Set up for warrior one. So you have that stance where the back toe is up, the hips are able to face forward because you've got a little bit of space. Then straighten the legs. You can have hands behind your back or at your hips. And then send your long, strong heart forward over that long, strong front leg. Keep pulling that left hip back, opening your collarbones, pushing down into the left big toe. Focus on length at both sides of the waist. You're doing great. 2 more breaths. Draw the belly in, come on up. We're gonna try to stand up and take the back leg with us. It doesn't have to be graceful, just go for it. Good. Okay, so that energy of lifting that back leg up, we're gonna take that with us into our first standing pose. We're gonna do a couple of them today. Take that leg up, just to pick a leg, then lift your inner thighs, take the opposite hand to your knee, take the hand to your shoulder, open the shoulder, soften your belly so that these ribs are coming towards the thigh, and then open your arm up. Notice I'm not back here. It's easy to be back there, but it's not easy to stand up there, so get on top of yourself. Stay there, breathe out, relax your lifted hip down towards your back foot. Unwind, set the foot down. So I'll show from this side. I've got this lifted my leg, opposite hand. I'm not back here. Up on top of the leg. I'm going to twist my ribs over, heart opens. 1 more exhale. Unwind, set the foot down, wiggle things out. And do a little bit of footwork. Take 1 foot, turn it under behind you. If this is intense and crazy, stay here. Just bring the hands to the fronts of your hips and practice lifting the space. So we're getting some release to the front of the hip flexors. If you are able to get that back leg a little bit more straight and really lean the fronts of the hips forward to open up the fronts of these hip flexors, it's a little more intense in that space. Don't dip your heart back, lift your heart up. 1 more exhale. Release the foot. Take the other one back. So I'm on the toenail side of my foot, which is not a way that we normally stretch, but it's increasing a little bit more blood flow in the foot. It's opening up some of those tissues. I have a little bit more wide surface area to balance on. I've got the weight in my front foot, not that one back there. It doesn't want it. You can lift the front foot up, bending, or the front of the hips up, bending into the back leg, or make the leg more straight and push the hips up and forward, allowing them to open up and forward. Heart goes up and forward. One more round of breath. Release the foot. Set it down, wiggle things out a little bit. grab your thing. Where is it? Over here. Bring your legs out nice and wide. We're gonna come into triangle pose. So turn your right toes out to the right, turn your left toes in. Bring this down on the inside of your right foot. And then shift your hips over. You're gonna take your right hand down towards that item. And then you're gonna open your chest. Think about your torso flattening out, but the hip is slightly over. Breathing in. Open that left collarbone, breathe out. Ears away from your hips. Tailbone away from your ears. Draw your belly in, stand up. Now you're gonna take this right foot, and you're gonna bring it back about, I said a clown shoe. That's usually been like a good thing to think about, or like a shoe that is bigger than your shoe if you are not, like typically a clown. That would be about how far you go back from this. So you've got a little bit of space in front of you. And then you're gonna come up to stand on this foot. You might bend into this knee, that's totally fine. See if you can come down to that, oh man, my balance today, not great. Okay, there I am. You might keep your left hand at your left hip. This hip does not quite stack, but you wanna open by pushing into that left foot. And then you might think of opening your collarbone. And if the collarbone opens, you might open your hand, but don't let the hand fall back there. Lift it all the way up and then think about breathing again. And then come into a forward fold because it's just so much easier. Take it on up. Half moon. Half moon is not a totally two-dimensional shape, just like triangle isn't a two-dimensional shape. But we tried to originally teach triangle here, and my spine is all curved. So instead we teach triangle with that hip turned over. You can see I'm no longer quite as flat. And it's the same thing with half moon, not totally flat. If I take you can see that hip is a little bit over. It's not directly on top, because that'll just kind of twinge the back. You want that lifted leg to be active. It's been a while since we've done half moon. No time like the present. It's gonna get even more fun in a minute. But for now, triangle and half moon. A little bit of rest forward in that front hip, but not all the way so that you can't open your rib cage. It's just soft, open. Come on down. So this hip is slightly over. Think of like, okay, where's the uncomfortable stacked place? And then just release from that. And you open your collarbones. My ribs are still open, even though this hip is soft. And the arm comes up. One more breath. Draw your belly in, stand it up. And then you're gonna bring your left foot back a little bit bigger than your foot. Now, so I've got a little bit more space than what my shoe would be. That usually gives a good amount of space between your hip being above your foot and then your hand being able to be underneath your shoulder. And then this leg, it's closer to you than my hip is, but my hip is still open. My foot is active. I'm opening my ribs, falling over. Maybe the hand comes up. Ears away from tailbone, tailbone away from ears. Maybe you can still breathe in. Maybe you laugh as you fall over. And then we'll come into a forward fold. Come on down. Okay. Come on up, friends. Got one more for you. We've been twisting a lot. Doing a little balancing. Hopefully it's becoming more stable, or we're just learning to laugh and give up and another day will be a better balancing day. Who cares? What we're gonna do is revolve half moon. So I'm gonna bring my feet about hip width apart, and I want my item to be in front of my right foot. Make sure it's not very wide. You could even think shoulder width apart, just in case you feel like your hips are very wide. You only want this to be about that much distance. So I've got that about where I could lean forward relatively comfortably, even if my knees are bent, and have my right hand on that item. But my weight isn't in my right hand, it's in my feet. Take your left hand to your left hip. You're gonna move the weight into your left foot. That's now the only thing you're standing on. This is just here for a little extra. Lift your inner thighs, so the inside of your heel comes up as that leg lifts up. Now it might lift up to your hips, it might be down here. But you're sending your left hip towards that back foot. You're gonna open your collarbone, stay here or here. My hand is not back here. I'm opening from the shoulder. Try to breathe out again. Forward fold. Good stuff. Okay, other side. Bring the object over so it's gonna go underneath your left shoulder. You're gonna put the weight in your feet. Right hand to your right hip, then the weight's gonna go into your right foot as you lift the left leg, but don't let the pinky toe lift. Lift the big toe edge of your foot. So you're gonna lift your inner thighs, which is gonna keep your pelvis more even. As you roll the right shoulder open, the arm doesn't have to lift, but it could. You don't have to fall over, but you could. One more exhale. Fold down, soften it out. Bobble your head, shaking yes and no. Slide your thing off to the side, bring your hands to your shins. Roll the shoulders back, send your heart forward. Exhale, fold, bring your hands down, bring your knees down, widen your knees out, and sit back into child's pose. If being on your knees at this point is not serving you, or any time is not serving you, you can always lay flat on your belly instead of being in child's pose. That might feel better. Walk your hands over towards the right side of your mat. See if you can push down a little bit more in your left hand and drop back in your left hip. Rest your head somewhere. Big breath out. And then walk your hands over towards the left side. Push down more into your right hand and back in your right hip. One more exhale. Come back to the center. Start to lift yourself up. We're going to come into pigeon pose. So bring your right knee up by your right hand. Then you're going to bring your foot in front of your hips and then slide the left leg back. If this does not serve you, remember when we were on our back before and you had your ankle on your knee, you might just go there instead. Stay up for a moment. Try to lift your chest. Relax the left hip forward and the right hip back so they become a little bit more stable. You could always grab maybe a pillow or something and put it underneath this hip or this hip. Maybe you start to come down onto your forearms and keep releasing your right thigh bone back towards your back foot. Try to make sure your toes face directly behind you. If the toes are turned in, it's going to roll this hip too far forward. Take 2 more breaths. And then start to bring your hands in underneath your shoulders. You're going to pull that right leg back and send the left leg forward. Knee up by the hand. Foot comes in front of the hip. So the thigh bone is out, not directly forward, it's out. You're going to roll your left hip back. Relax your right hip forward. Try to lift your heart up a bit. Staying present here, trying to find that balance in the pelvis in an unbalanced asymmetrical shape, toes face behind you. When you feel ready, bring yourself down onto your elbows, maybe rest your head. One more breath. And start to come back up onto your hands. Pull yourself back. We're going to sit down and swing the legs out in front of us. And if it feels better for you to sit up on something, which for many of us it does, I'm just going to bring a blanket in underneath your hips like so. And I have it just kind of behind my hips, so it gives more support up and forward, which is where many of us have the problem, is to get up and forward. Because your body just wants to lounge back here. Who can blame it? So take your right leg up. You can hold it on the same side or cross it over. You're going to bring your right hand in real close to your hip. Hug that thigh towards you to stretch your outer thigh. And then the only thing active here is your toes lifted. Let your front body soften into this twist. Oh, this left arm is active as well. Lift up from behind the ears. Soften your belly as you exhale. Lift up behind the ears. Soften the belly as you exhale. One more round of breath. Start to release your twist. You're going to slide this foot now up by your hips. So you have cow face pose, half cow face pose. Just wiggle your legs together. I'm on the pinky toe edge of my foot. And then I'm going to start to come forward. I might hold the thigh and try to stay lifted. The more I come forward, it's going to get into the belly of this hamstring, right in that meaty part in the middle. So if it's bothering your knee, you just stay lifted and lean your heart forward. Whoa, belly of hamstring. We got more of the top of the hamstring. It's like this nuanced little place I haven't worked yet today. It's speaking to me. Make sure the voice it's using with you is an indoor voice at the very least. And breathing in. Breathing out. And start to walk your hands back. Gently unwind this leg. And then we start with a twist, bringing the left leg in, crossing the foot over or not. Left hand is in nice and close. We'll lift those right toes, hug onto the thigh, lift the chest, soften the low ribs into that twist. Keep hugging this thigh over so you're stretching right here, right here. One more inhale. Stay there as you exhale. Start to release the twist. And you're going to slide this foot back by your hip on the pinky toe edge of the foot, and there's some wiggling of the flesh together. And you find a place that feels okay to you. Like maybe this is the place where you just practice breathing. Maybe you practice breathing here. Maybe you go further. Maybe you decide that on this leg, for whatever reason, that's not the right place for you to be. Change it up, go somewhere else. Take a rest on this one. Stay here about 2 more breaths. And start to lift yourself up. and then wind your legs. Come down onto your back. And if there's anything you want near you for Shavasana, just make sure you have that relatively handy. Start off with your feet down a little bit wider than your hips. Let your knees knock against each other. Place a hand on your belly and a hand on your heart just to notice the movement of your breath and your heartbeat. Letting your back relax into the floor. Soften your jaw bones, your collarbones. I haven't done much back bending today, but we're going to start to work into a bridge pose. So take it nice and slow on yourself. We'll spend kind of a long time working into it. You are absolutely welcome to take breaks. I'm going to bring your feet back to hip width apart instead of wider. Maybe you bring your heels up closer to your hips, your knees face up. Wiggle the shoulders underneath your back. You might press your palms down, or you might make like a robot arm so you can use your hands to hold the outside of your hips, or you could interlace fingers behind your back when you get up there. We're going to get the hips up, wiggle your shoulders and more, and then that's where you go. Hands down, robot arms, or my favorite is hands below the back. And so you don't need to get into a really big back bend, but we're going to focus on a big opening to the front space. So you're going to lift your inner thighs up into your pelvis, reach the knees forward, pull this heart up, and take 2 more breaths. You might wiggle the shoulders again if you have more space. Don't tense your neck up. 1 more breath in. And then start to relax the shoulders, release any bind you have as you start to bring the hips down onto the floor. And then the knees up and into the chest. Maybe rock a little bit side to side. We've done a lot of twisting. If you really want to wrap yourself up, maybe you cross the top leg over when you get there, but I'm just going to take a nice, easy, basic recline twist. Open the arms, take both knees over towards the right. Find a place that feels good in your body. Find a place where your belly can soften on your exhales and your left collarbone can release. Your eyebrows can release. Find a place where you can just be, not be right or wrong, just be there. No forcing, no grasping. Just hold it and be with it for a few moments. One more exhale. And starting to take your legs over to the other side. You might get there and then kind of adjust a little bit. When you get there, relax your right collarbone more open. Let your breath soften. We spent a bit in the other twist, so it might take a little bit to settle into this one. That's okay. Last exhale. And then come back to the center. Set the soles of your feet down, let the knees knock against each other. And if there's any other poses that you need at the end of practice, you're welcome to go there. I suggested to bring anything you need to be close by you for Shavasana, but I'm also going to offer that maybe legs up against the wall would feel really good. Whenever the seasons start to change, can be somewhat disorienting to our nervous system, and inversions can be grounding, especially the much more gentle ones. So and you may not, but you might, roll myself over, come over here so that my little wall space is nice and close. You can also do this with your legs just flopped up on a bed or a couch if that's what you're nearby. And then just bring the hips nice and close. Wiggle the legs up, my knees are soft. Arms just come down in a gentle open shape by the sides. And if this starts to feel like too much, if your toes start to feel tingly, if this is not serving you, just nice and easy, slide the feet down the wall, bring the knees in, roll over to your side. Take a lot of time, great care and laziness and no rush whatsoever. Coming to a place that is restful and supportive for you. You're also welcome to take a seated meditation. Again, maybe some other poses are necessary to finish you off, but when you're ready, settle into this deep rest. start to come back to your breath. If you've got your legs up on anything, then start to fold your knees in towards your chest. Unless you're already seated, from wherever you're at, start to roll yourself over to one side. Pause in gratitude for this moment and gratitude for this practice and this time to share together. When you're ready, finding your own version of a comfortable seat, come on up. Take your time. Letting your hands gather at your heart. Sealing practice with one Om. Big breath in. Bowing down to the love in our hearts, to the light and darkness that resides within each of us. Namaste. Thanks, friends. Drink lots of water after doing all of that twisting. It really is a physical detoxifier too. So, good plan. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you need anything. All the YouTube Cash App stuff is still the same. I appreciate anything that anybody is able to kick in whenever. More than that, very glad that you're here. Tell your friends. Good times. Be well.
Thank you so much, April. Lots of love.
Lots of love, Annie. Thanks for being here.
Lots of fresh breathing air. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Annie. Have a good day.
Have a great week.
Thanks, Victoria and Marco. Take care. Thanks, Raina.